I think we're alive. I think I am live. And if I am live and you can see me, just let me know. That would be great. That would be awesome. It would be. I started a live and I had to end it prematurely, so I'm gonna start another one on Instagram as well. So if you are here with me, just bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Um, So I am looking forward to some of your shares. I know a lot of you who join us in the evenings on our Sovereign Sundays. I know a lot of you are vegans or vegetarians or transitioning, and so because of that, I thought this would be a lively dialogue to actually have with you all, just looking at what it is that we really need so that we can be successful in our transitions, right? Transitioning to a plant based or transitioning to a completely vegan or vegetarian journey or experience. So, as I wait for you all to file in and come on in, greetings, Sekhmet Kira. Sekhmet Kira is joining us on Instagram. So thank you, thank you. Greetings, Naya. Peace. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so it's greetings, Deidre Sully. All right. So I hear I'm loud and clear. So that's a good thing. All right. Um, Most of you probably have, you got a chance to actually look at our midday motivation. I enjoyed the first few that I did, and I'm going to continue to do them. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, join us for a little bit of midday motivation for you all to just be inspired, right? In the middle of the day, stop, take a break, focus on self, focus on, making sure that you can reassess your day, reassess yourself, and maybe deal with some of the things that come up in the middle of the day and allow yourself to rejuvenate and jump right back in. So that's Tuesdays and Thursdays at midday Eastern Time. All right. Greetings, Anu Moon. Thank you. Welcome. Shalom. 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 So, yes, I was just saying the midday motivation has been fun. I'm going to continue doing it, but it is inspiration for myself, it's motivation for others, so I'm going to keep chugging, I'm going to keep doing it. I thought this evening would be a great it will give us a great opportunity to, we may not be able to flush it out. There's so much to talk about when it comes to be, transitioning to a plant-based vegetarian or vegan, or even a raw vegan lifestyle, right? There's a lot to consider. Greetings, True Health Live. Thank you for joining us. There's a lot to consider, right? And I think there are a few of you who gave me responses in the chat and so on. I even have, those of you who reached out to say, yeah, these are some of the most important things. I'm going to just share some of what I think is extremely important and necessary for anyone who wants to transition and do so successfully. And for me, successful transitioning is that you are able to function independently, right? And I say that because I think many times we are bombarded, like that's strong. We spoke about, you know, the way we see a lot of the alternatives for meals, like vegan alternatives. We see the direction in which those alternatives are going. It's ideally to make a profit off of us, right? They're really creating these all of these alternatives so that we can continue to, throw money at those companies. And they continue to share those foods with labels and stamps that say non-GMO and organic, because they know those are trigger terms, right? They know that they are trigger terms to help, you know, cue people in, right? And when I say people, those who aren't necessarily tapped into those cue words or those clue words and how they affect our psyche, right? Sometimes we think, okay, a symbol is just a symbol, right? That V for vegan, that non-GMO sign is just a symbol, but those symbols are processed by the brain. And every single time you see them, you don't have to consciously acknowledge it. The brain subconsciously acknowledges it immediately, right? So it's really important to think about overexposure to those things, because you may find yourself shopping, and though you may not go in for a particular item, you will find that you habitually pick up specific items. Sometimes they're not even on your your menu, your list, right? But you find that there is a lack of control sometimes, because again, those symbols, those names, those words are triggers. They are natural triggers that will, and I think we spoke a little bit about triggers last, may have been last December or November, when we were talking about addictions, right? And just thinking about how sometimes they seep so deep into our subconsciousness that we don't even realize. So let's talk a little bit about, just when it comes to transitioning, what is the purpose? I think being purpose driven is necessary. I think every time you hear me speak, I'm always talking about, if you're transitioning, whether it's raw food, just plant based, vegetarian, vegan, always make sure you have that focus of why am I transitioning. You don't want to be a bandwagonist. You don't want to jump on the bandwagon and just decide, okay, well, everything that is or looks like it's made from a plant based um, source is good. So once it says plant based, I'm good. I can eat it. Um, a lot of vegans become, I've heard the word starchitarian, right? It's very easy to swim in those waters, because especially if you're not purpose driven and you're not focused on the reason why you're transitioning. Because if you're not focused on the reason you're transitioning, you will find that you only want to eat for pleasure, right? And I we have pleasure centers that are all connected to the idea of food and the pleasure of eating and sweets. Let's not even talk about the brain and how it functions when you introduce sugar into your mouth. Even the olfactory, right? Even your nose, smelling sugar cooking or baking or anything becomes a trigger as well for the brain and the gut. So those are key things to think about, because if you're purpose driven when it comes to transitions, um, it's going to it's going to dictate how you move forward, what things you eat, the decisions that you make every day in front of the stove, in front of the bowl while you're prepping, in the aisle while you're shopping. Or I think we're far, some of us are more advanced, so we're far beyond shopping in the aisles now. We're, pretty much shopping on screen. And if that's the case, then you want to really make sure that you are diligent and you're making, wise decisions. Always purpose driven. Can you all hear me, or is my music too loud? Is my music too loud? Give me a little yes, no, maybe so in the chat. Nia says, I know during my process, it was more training my body for autopilot. And it started with the stores I shopped in. Yeah, I think when you train, don't train your body for autopilot, because if your transition becomes this type of experience where you're on autopilot, you're going to get bored very quickly, and that will definitely. Thank you, Sister Anu Moon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, all right, thank you. Um, yeah, if you stay stuck in trying to just get to autopilot, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be difficult and you may drop off of your journey. You won't be successful. Um, Autopilot, anything becomes very boring very, very quickly. And food, you have to remember, food has such a deep connection to our emotions. A lot of us are food tendencies. Um, it's directly connected to how we or how we were raised between 0 and 7 years, right? And maybe even up to teen, right? Or preteen years. So it's really important to think about how those things affect our choices. And if you go on autopilot, boredom becomes a problem. If you become bored, it makes it very easy for you to say, okay, well, I'll have some of this, I'll have some of that, and pretty soon some of this and some of that becomes extended periods of foods that you don't want to consume. For example, um, I grew up on root veggies, right? Root veggies are really hearty and wholesome. And I actually suggest that if you are transitioning, you don't remove hearty carbohydrates, right? I'm not saying eat all carbs. So I'm not endorsing for you to gorge on jasmine rice or gorge on breads and croissants, and that's not what I'm saying. Root veggies have this beautiful balance of carbs and fibers. And I know a lot of people are down for sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are good. Yams are fine, but in moderation, right? And I say in moderation because you can feel your body. If you're on autopilot, you won't pay attention to how foods subtly change your energetics and how the increase in carbs. Like, say, for example, you were to eat yams, and I'm talking for those of you who are not aware, yams are very similar to sweet potatoes. Their starch content, I think, is a little bit higher. And I would say it's a main staple in the Caribbean. So I grew up on eating yams and green figs and things like that, and really love those. But I love them because, again, it goes back to that connection to the memories formed in childhood. So even though I have been on a vegan journey for a long time, those things are still, they still pull on me, right? And they do not control me, right? They do not control me because it's very easy for me to look at yams sitting in the store and just keep it moving, right? But there are times when I do want to make rice yams and couple them with a whole dandelion salad with, seaweed, and really spruce it up and make it really good. So there's a balance that we have to have, right? Um, and autopilot doesn't always help us to do that. Paying attention, but I commend you, Naya, sorry, for actually deciding that you're going to make that transition and you're going to monitor your progress, right, and your journey. Um, Naya says, I mean more for my snacking. I pick up healthier snacks when I'm in my produce store. And now that's where I shop 90% of the time. I see. I see. Healthier snacks. I see. All right. But that's good. Paying attention to the snacking is really important. Um, Snacking can be, listen, let me tell you all something. I love popcorn, but it is a great deceiver. Okay? Great, great deceiver. Because you can enjoy something that you've convinced yourself is low calorie, and then you find yourself consuming way more than you realize. That's how the brain works, right? There's actually this trigger in our bodies and our brain that you may, let's say you're going through, you're focusing on losing a certain amount of weight, right? And you decide, okay, I'm consuming this amount of calories per strong per week. Strong is weak, right? But weak is strong. Weak is strong, right? So per strong, you may find yourself doing so successfully for probably a month or two, but the body has this very intriguing way of slipping back into your regular caloric intake without you knowing. And then before you know it, you put on weight and you're like, what? Where did it come from? And you'll probably see these cheeks look a little bit, they look fuller than they did in December. So, but we're gonna take care of that. So very easily you can begin to put on weight, and as a vegan and vegetarian. So I think it's really important to pay attention to the body and be very, very you know, attentive and scrutinize, the eating habits and the tendencies, especially when you're walking through the aisles, Naya, especially. Okay, let me see. Instagram people, let me give you a little bit of love. New Moon says, I have been experimenting so I won't get bored. Tonight I substituted my bad carbs noodles with squash noodles. Yes. Were you using, you said squash noodles. Are you using that spaghetti squash? It's really yellow and it looks like, it looks like a very weird butternut squash. It doesn't taper at the top. It's almost like a football. It's just that it doesn't have the pointed ends. It's kind of lopped off. I really love that one. If that's the one you're talking about, the skin is as yellow as a lemon is, and it's really tough, but it's thin. That's the strangest thing that I find about that particular squash. And I love to just take it, make sure I scrub the outside, and I submerge the whole thing, and I would steam the entire thing, or you can bake it. Um, and then, cut it open and start using the fork to make noodles with it to spread the flesh apart. So um, that's an excellent alternative that is wholesome, and it doesn't come in a package. It doesn't come in a freezer. Um, Box, you know, dinner or whatever. And I know there are many of those right now that are supposed to be alternatives, so-called healthy alternatives. So that's good. I'm proud of you and that swap that you did, that substitute. Um, you can use seaweed noodles. Seaweed noodles are another excellent option. I actually really enjoy. Um, I won't name the brand online, but I could probably send you a link or so. But you can find them. You can find them online. They're made from. I can't remember the name of the seaweed, but they're made from seaweed. Some of them are rice noodles, but they are mixed, so they'll not. It isn't just purely rice. You'll find some of those noodles have some seaweed and rice in them. But seaweed noodles are a good option. They're really clear. They look like glass. Sometimes I think um, there was one that I bought before, and it has a label that says glass noodles. They really have almost 0 calories, and they really have no taste. You have to season them and spice them up. Segment Kira says, I grew up in New Jersey, so pizza was highly favored. Therefore, cheese was a childhood favorite. Whoa, do you see the cheese options now? Well, I've decided to just blend cashews for now. The cheese options are amazing. But like I said last strong, the Seven-Day Adventists, they have been at the forefront of this. I guess if you could call it a revolution. I mean, doesn't give real revolutions any, credence, but it at the forefront of this whole shift and change. They have been consuming and perfecting the art of cheese alternatives and other food alternatives for a long, long time, decades. Um, so, I do take some tips and hints from them. I know there are lots of newer, younger chefs on TikTok and else, other places that show you how to create great cheese combinations. So you segment. Kira says she is using cashews. She also says, I'm no longer controlled by that product anymore. It took time though. Yes, it took time. It takes time. It does take time. And focus as well. But um, I'll also say, once you have variety, I think one of the things that we really need to make our transition successful, transition to plant-based, vegan, vegetarian lifestyle very successful, is making sure that you do have variety. And that variety is not so much for the taste buds, but it's for the nutrition content, right? Nutritional content. I think we have a lot of vegans who are transitioning, and they may say, okay, we're seeing the benefits, but I think many are, suffering from inadequate balance of nutrients, right? So there is this nutritional deficiency. And being inside actually makes it worse. New Moon says yes, butternut squash. I see. Butternut squash. There's a different type of. Well, we don't have to go into the other type, but there is a another type of squash that people do called a noodle squash or something like that. But the when you cook it, the threads look like noodles. That's what I think is incredible. You know, plants are absolutely they're also this world. I actually think we have how they always say art imitates life. Yeah. So I think even in our food prep there is a bit of art involved, and that in many ways it imitates what we see in in nature. So even the creating of noodles, I'm probably going to get off course, but this is a conversation. Do you all like to look at um, how to videos, those videos that show you how foods are made? I gorge myself on some of those because when you see how some of these foods are recreated, that is one very it's a great way to convince yourself making changes that are permanent, right? Permanent changes. So, DJ Sully says, I do. Yeah, definitely. Because you get to see the inner workings behind the food industry. And when you see the inner workings behind the food industry, you realize that, yeah, they cut corners. They cut corners so that they can make a buck. And very, large companies. I mean, last night I looked at a whole video on how noodles are made. So that's interesting. No Moon, that you said you had noodles today, and you utilized a substitute butternut squash, because I looked at how they made noodles, and I said to myself, it's straight flour, right? There was something else they were making, and they put there's MSG in there, of course. Sugar. There was so much sugar inside of this filling. I think they were making a filling for some sort of pastry. And again, I like to look at how people create food. I like to look at the chemistry and the different machinery that they utilize, just because it helps you to know what you're looking at when when you see food. When you see food. Naya says some will make you clean your fridge immediately. Terrible. Somewhat. Some foods. Are you talking about certain foods or certain veggies, Naya? Yeah. So it's interesting. Just observing the body. When you consume the variety. Like I'm going back to the point of um, making sure that as a person transitioning, you include variety. Don't be afraid to look for Asian markets. And even though there is no organic sticker on that food, learn how to touch the food that you're going to consume. And I understand right now there's a lot of, precaution when it comes to touching things, but you got to touch your food. You have to touch your food. You have to connect with what you're going to put in your body. And so one of my suggestions is to find Korean markets. And yes, we can have a whole long conversation about Asian markets and so on. I'm looking for where I can find food to feed my body until I am tilling my own soil. Asian markets, you'll find things like dandelion, larger bunches, healthier looking bunches as well. You'll find lots of things like burdock root. So we're talking about making sure we have sufficient nutrition, right? Yes. So making sure you have things like burdock root. You can substitute burdock root for carrots. You don't need to consume carrots all the time. Find variations. Go look for purslane. Purslane can be prickly on the tongue. There's a lot of oxalic acid in purslane, but purslane is a good protein replacement. Nettle, green nettle grows throughout spring and summer. And if you live in the southern states, or if you live in maybe even Jersey, someone mentioned Jersey. You can find nettle at some markets. You can find watercress at some markets. So, um, as someone who's transitioning, I think that, you know, it's when people are transitioning, that's one of the things I say to them: make sure there's variety. And variety doesn't mean, oh, let me get all the different color peppers and all of the different. No, it means literally go out and look for new veggies and new fruits to consume. All right, you need those, especially in this environment that we live in. I think that we kind of close off ourselves when it comes to food, and opening up our taste buds and expanding, our taste buds, but not just the taste buds, but expanding, our minds, and thinking and considering other foods is very important. Um, Naya says the how they're made videos. I see. It makes you clean your. I see. It's true. Throwing away certain items, right? Yes, of course, and that's a good thing, because when you see the how to behind certain foods, you have to question whether it belongs in your body or not. You really do. Um, Sekhmet Kira, I wanted to bring up a point Sekhmet Kira made on Instagram, right? Thank you for maintaining space with us. So Sekhmet Kira said one of the things for her that is really important to make sure transitioning to a plant-based or vegan that is lifestyle is successful is a tribe. And I said, yeah, a tribe is a vibe, right? You do need support around you. You need others who indulge in that type of lifestyle, who are ahead of you, far ahead of you, to support you during your own journey. There may be things that you know that they don't know, and you're able to bring that new knowledge to them, right? So it's really, really crucial to have other people around you who you're sharing that journey with. Um, Seek them out. When I just moved here and I started my journey, I literally would go to meetups. I don't know if you whoever remembers meetup.com. I was on meetup.com every chance I get, right? Because you can find all sorts of communities there. There's so many communities out there. I wouldn't even mention the long list, but if you were to take a peek at my profile, you half of them are hiking groups, but that's all right. And there were some spiritual groups in there, but a lot of groups were raw vegan and vegan groups. So I would go out and meet Caucasians. Let me just say, I'm gonna just put it out there, y'all, Caucasians. But it opened up my eyes to variety, because coming to this country, I knew the foods of the Caribbean. That's what I knew. That was it, and I couldn't find those things. So meeting up with others who are far advanced, finding communities and groups that you can attach yourself with to, and of course, not just attach so you could take. Always think about what you're going to bring to that community so that they can be that wonderful exchange, right? Segment Kira says, our food, massage it and love on it, speak to it. Hey, that's a you're talking a that's another level. That is another level when it comes to food and engaging with food and food preparation. You know, very, very intricate detail when it comes to paying attention to food and what I call energetics of food, right? You say massage it, and the only time I hear people talk about massaging food is when they talk about massaging the kale, right? Um, you do have to love when you're food prepping. You have to love on the food. There's certain things that you shouldn't do if you're coming off the streets and you probably just stepped outside and you came back inside, or you went to the grocery store and you came back. This might seem off the chain. Shower and prepare yourself before you prepare food for your loved ones, right? And I get it. Sometimes we come in and we're like, you forget, but that should be part of the routine. When you talk about massaging and loving on the food, that's part of energetics. And part of energetics is cleanliness. And that cleanliness is also even in the space where you prep. Um, Soaking your foods and making sure that if you're using greens, you're using that apple cider vinegar to make sure and soak the veggies and the fruits before you consume them. Even if it means just having a solution of water and apple cider vinegar to wipe down your foods. I wipe pineapples too, y'all. Yes, all the stems, everything, before they sit um, in the fruit basket. So very important to think about that. Baking soda and apple cider vinegar is great also to help soak and cleanse. So that comes prior to even the massaging and the speaking to the food. Very important. Very important. Um, I also think about, if I'm not in a pleasant mood, I do not food prep, right? If I am not in the mood where, and it's not about, okay, I'm not in the mood to make food. That's not it. If I am not emotionally stable, or as well, because I am a woman, if I am um, going through my cycle, I do not food prep, right? There's a lot of there's a lot happening, right? And there's a lot of energy. And if I am going through something where, yeah, my emotions are unstable, I'm not food prepping for myself, neither am I going to food prep for anyone. And I think those are things to consider as we are on a cycle. Consider that, pulling away from food prepping at that time. And I mean, it may seem a challenge, but the truth is, it just requires us to be more and more, like, submerge ourselves more and more in what it means to be feminine and a woman, because then you will have yourself scheduled to the point where, okay, in the next two strongs, I have to have XYZ prepared. The next strong, I have to have XYZ prepared ahead of time, right? Crucial, very important. Um, do you have, Sekmet Kira, do you have, when you say speak to the food, right? Do you have specific mantra or specific words that you actually speak to? I do know of I wonder if I can't walk off the screen and bring the book back for you all, but there's this incredible book called Fire Without Flames by a sister called Yanni Bates. She's an ancestor now. She passed away, but I learned from her, she had certain routines in terms of speaking, um, and creating a dura, what, not a dura, but affirmations rather, as she food prepped, right? So she would, similarly to what you are saying, speaking to the food, her book Fire Without Flames includes an area where she talks about the energetics of food, and that's one of the things that she says is a way to actually stabilize the energy of food, being able to work with that energy from that perspective, and using word song. Word song is power. The food has water in it. And if the food has water in it, and check out my podcast episode on Water's Wonder, because you learn about the intricate details of the way water functions inside of our body, but mostly inside of organisms. It's receptive, it absorbs things. So imagine you're working with veggies and you're creating maybe a dandelion salad with cucumbers, and these things all have water in them. So they are absorbing, not just absorbing the seasonings that you're putting in them, but they're absorbing the energy, especially if you're using your hands to touch the food and work with them. So thank you, Sekmet Kira, for bringing up that point and bringing it up to the forefront. Very important. Naya says, "Oh, let me go back a little." Sister Deidre says, "Bad emotions, bad food." This is true. This is true. Sometimes people are very sensitive, very sensitive. So there may be even times when you try to suppress some of the emotions, and even then it still comes through, because emotions, energy in motion. It's gonna be always moving, nonstop. When you think you're suppressing it, you have something else to learn about energy. Um, True. Greetings, Akuya. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Peace. We're gonna close out. If there's anything you want me to touch on, this just became a very, you know, back and forth dialogue. I am loving being on Instagram and on YouTube at the same time. So those of you who join us on YouTube, I appreciate you. Thank you. And if you join us on Instagram Live, I appreciate you. Thank you. True Health Life says this is why our food is important to overall health, because if your cycle is irregular, you may not be able to plan properly. This is true. But there's a lot to woo. You're opening up a whole listen, you're opening up a large conversation, because when you shift to a cleaner diet or cleaner lifestyle in terms of food consumption, I'm speaking from experience, you find that your cycle becomes very minimal. There are times when it is non-existent, and it does not mean that like you're not going through a cycle, but your bleeding itself is very minimal. And you'll find that there are times that, especially if you're athletic and you're constantly moving, and you're lifting weights and you're exercising excessively, you may find that you have one day one day of your flow, so to speak. That doesn't mean your cycle is not complete. It goes through all the phases, but what you visually see is less flow than others. And I'll say this to you: increasing the amount of carbs. If you're a meat eater and you eat more meats, you may find that your cycle is heavier, right? If you are plant based, right? I'm saying that because we have a wide open room of people in both areas. So, you could be at any point in your journey. Um, but if you are plant based, depending on the food you consume, that also has an effect on because again, it's hormonal, and food is hormones. I mean, I just learned last night that vitamin D is not just a vitamin. I mean, it's a hormone. And maybe you all knew that before, but I didn't know that. I did not know that it was a whole hormone and can affect and regulate function um hormonally. That's like that's amazing to me. I know about vitamin D and its importance in helping to absorb calcium and other things, but that was new to me. And I was actually looking at someone share about alternative ways to affecting the body and helping to support the body during this time where we're affected by COVID-19. Akuya smiled. Akuya, you knew that, didn't you? I know you did. You're laughing at me. Oh my goodness. Sister Akuya is smiling over there. All right. True Health Live says it affects DNA. Yes, it's hormonal. It affects DNA. Affects the way DNA is structured. You know, and that was a valid and acceptable. It was a doctor actually sharing that vitamin D is an actual way to help support the system during this COVID-19 times. So and I found it interesting because I started thinking about the way elderberry works, and elderberry also works in the same way. It helps to affect the way the body replicates that particular virus. So it affects the RNA reproduction of um, viruses, not that specific virus, but viruses in general. So that's one of the reasons why elderberry is used in that way. I'm going to close out. I said that several minutes ago, but this is really good. Give thanks, Naya. Naya says it's interesting. I usually have music on, and as I'm prepping, considering how delicious and nutritious it will be, and singing and speaking around that. Fire Without Flames is the title, correct? Yes, Fire Without Flames. I wonder if I could have the book magically appear. Maybe I could do another trick like I did the last time. Remember the last time when I did that? I was like, I wonder if I could find this particular thing, and it just boom appeared. So Fire Without Flames might boom appear, and I might be able to show you all the book. But I'll share this one. The Raw Food Nutrition Handbook is really good because if you are shifting to a raw vegan lifestyle, you really want to make sure that you have the nutritional content of the foods down, and you're creating balanced meals for your homestead, right? So this gives you a unique perspective. It isn't just a vegan, regular vegan book, and both Kevin, what's it, the Dinas, they're both doctors. So, and they also live a raw vegan life. This is the text by Yami Bates, Fire Without Flame. Fire Without Flame. Um, yes. She passed away too soon, but she has a lot of purifying meals and transition meals in here to help you. I think the book is still in print. I don't think it's out of print. So that's something that you could utilize to help you. Greetings, alien black girl. Welcome, Toda, for the information. Toda, for being here. Thank you very much for you all being in the space and offering support. And as you offer support to me, I want to be able to offer to you as well. If you want to drop anything in the chat right now, some wisdom, ladies, about your transition and what helps you and what is you think is necessary. But today we recapped. We said knowing that you are purpose driven and you know the reason why you're transitioning. We said we spoke about making sure that you have a wide variety so that you focus on nutrient content and not just taste and flavor. Making sure that Sister um, Sekmet Sakura, Kira, sorry, brought up the idea of making sure you have a tribe, so making sure you're connected with a group, whether it's a sisterhood or some sort of community where you can tap into and you can feel strengthened. Very important. Before I close, I am a new woman, and there are many sisters within the DM, or not the DM, the comment section that are also women who are a part of Anu Nation. And if you're interested in becoming part of or registering or application process for Anu Womb, which is the Women's Ministry of Anu Nation, opens on March 20th. And so I want to welcome every woman in the space who's not yet an Anu woman and has not committed, themselves or even started the application form application process to please look out for that link in the Anu Womb Instagram page. That link goes live on the 20th, and you can certainly click on the link and follow that link to the registration form, fill it out, and we'll go from there. We also have a couple of discussions coming up on YouTube Live. The women of Anu will be sharing what we call womb wisdom. It's a womb wisdom series. So if you're interested, be in the live April 20th, 21st. Am I saying April? March 21st. Okay. And March 28th. And again, stay connected to the Anu Womb channel and also the Sovereignties channel because you'll see updates there as well. All right. Peace and power to you all. Thank you for being in the space. Enjoy your evening. See you on Tuesday.